It was suicidally dangerous. We bought this basically on the basis that we looked at it and we said, you've got to be able to put a building there, and if you can't, property development is not a good industry to be in. 2 years later and a lot of hard work later, we turned out to be right. Do your analysis over and over again. Go over your numbers, go over your legals, go over your checklist. Sooner or later, you've got to make a decision on instinct, but you do that with the right network and the right analysis behind that.
What a beautiful day to do a site visit. So guys, today we are in lovely West Hampstead in London, visiting another developer, Ed, and he's the managing director of Rare Origins. This is a site which is a new build scheme, but it hasn't come off the ground yet. So it's always good to see what other developers are up to. So let's go and check it out. Hey, how you doing?
I'm good.
This is it. So Ed, really nice to meet you.
Thank you,
We don't have to do the handshake.
I think we'll do the
You want
handshake.
to do the handshake
I
again?
don't want a handshake.
Okay. Before you go into telling us what you're doing here, can you tell us what you did before this? Because it was completely different, right?
Yeah, I left university. I scraped out with a poor degree from a second-rate university, went to work in the bar trade,
Yeah.
learned a lot in hospitality, went to high-end bars in London, Soho, kind of was working my way up through the hospitality industry. I was an assistant manager at a nice place. And then everyone quit. That's the story, but we won't do it now. And I ended up being a dog walker. And then a few months after I started being a dog walker, I started a dog walking company. And I built that over 2 years and had some small success with it and built it up to a point where I sold it on. I split it up and I sold the client list to someone and sold the brand to someone else. And I felt like I was the king of the world and everything I touched turned to gold. So I said, let me go do property. Let me go do some real business.
Oh.
And here we are.
Yeah. Tell us about Rare Origins and what it is. Really cool name, by the way. I love it.
Thank you. I have a list of about 100 company names, along with a list of about 200 company ideas, and Rare Origins was on that list. And when we did this transaction, which wasn't immediately after I sold the dog walking company, I was casting around. I needed a name, so I went to my list, and basically everything was already taken. There were no URLs, company house, all of it was taken. But Rare Origins, and apart from the fact that it sounded a bit like a coffee company, I liked that it talked to our origin story. Me and my business partners that kind of started in a kitchen in one of those buildings over there, and we're building something we're quite proud of now. But to get to that, before Rare Origins, after I sold the dog walking company, I went and did a narrowboat conversion. Me and my partner, we went and bought a rat-ass little narrowboat from Hemel Hempstead that stunk of everything.
That's so cool.
And we sailed it back down the canal and brought it to Camden, and during lockdown, give or take, we kind of renovated that and actually sold it and made a great return on it.
So you did a boat flip?
Yeah, boat flip.
That's amazing.
She was a beautiful boat. Her name was Poem. She was a sort of semi-trad 1950s boat. Painted her forest green and sunshine yellow and sent her out into the world, and miss her.
Yeah.
And then we did then I did a refurbishment in Camden, so split level masonette, 3 beds, just a bit of like title remediation. Tried to get some planning gain, failed, and then just tarted everything up as best we could and modernised it and sold that on and made a little bit of money, but basically just sort of got out by the skin of my teeth, by which time I felt pretty fucking confident, so excuse me, I can't swear, by which time I felt super confident, and so I persuaded the family to join me in this enterprise, and that's when Rare Origins really got started.
Okay, and tell, like, who's involved in Rare Origins? Like,
so the lead investors are myself
group of you,
and my father, and then me, Bill is our development manager, Jordan is an investment manager, and Papa is our associate.
Okay.
We're not quite sure where he fits in yet. He started as an intern and he was just too good to let go, so he's working his way in. And that's a lot of people for one development, but the thing is that we're not only doing this one development, as well as having agreed the purchase of another one in Kentish Town, with several offers out on other things, we have some other business interests. So Rare Origins is the holding company.
Yeah.
We're 90% commercially allocated to property, 10% to kind of British tech startups supporting British entrepreneurs, and then we probably spend about 75% of our time on the property stuff and 25% of the time on the kind of very, very small scale.
So it's
private
not
equity.
just a property company?
No, single family holding company
Okay.
is what we're trying to build.
I've got quite a good dynamic with my business partner.
Yeah.
But that's just me and him. But how does it work with your setup? I mean, you know what they say sometimes, too many chefs in the kitchen. Are you like running the day to day, especially on the property side? Would you say?
It's the most difficult question in business. Is like, how do you manage the people? How do you manage the relationships? I think we're all aligned, right? So we're all about basically making a huge amount of money by solving complex problems. That's what unites us. And whether it's in the property space or the digital marketing space or e-commerce retail space, whatever it is, it's often the same fundamental problems when it comes to building businesses. Is getting the details right.
Yeah.
Making sure incentives are correct and aligned.
So tell us about this site. How did you find this site?
How did I find this site? I was about to give up after the Camden job that I did, the split level masonette. I was kind of on the verge of giving up on property because I couldn't find a deal. And one of the reasons I didn't do tremendously well on that first one was because I bought it in the open market. And I was going to go full-time developing board games. I ran into someone, I said, I'm going to give up. He was like, no, talk to her. She was like, don't give up, talk to him. He was like, I've got a deal if you can transact fast. And I looked at it and we sort of thought, yeah, this is a pretty good deal. And the deal was that if we bought the lot and we did it in 10 days, we could have it at what we thought was a pretty good price. And that's how we found it from a property trader.
Okay, great. And it's not just this plot of land, right? You bought the whole site, which includes the buildings behind me as well.
Yeah, so 3 old late Victorian buildings that had all been subdivided into 3 flats, all of which needed a lot of work, modernisation and improvement. So this plot of land specifically didn't come with planning, but you bought the site while you were sort of renovating that. You worked on the planning. It was suicidally dangerous. We bought this basically uncon on the basis that we looked at it and we said, you've got to be able to put a building there, and if you can't, property development is not a good industry to be in.
Yeah.
And thank our lucky stars, 2 years later and a lot of hard work later, we turned out to be right and we got a good planning gain on it. And while we were doing that, we refurbished all 3 buildings, modernised them, took the roofs off, got some planning gain on all of them, and just brought them into the 21st century.
That's great. And what's the plan with those?
When we're done with this, or as we get towards being done with this, we'd like to sell everything off. I never wanted to. We do our own estate management because I just think if you're going to do something, do it properly. But I don't like being a buy-to-let landlord. I don't like the relationship that society and the government in particular have fostered between landlords and tenants. I don't think it's a healthy space. So we look forward to, in due course, breaking it all up and selling it off to owner-occupiers.
Okay, but what are you going to do with those units now in the meantime?
They're rented.
They're rented
for the time being, yeah.
Okay, that's great. And so tell us about this bit. What did you get the planning gain on?
So we went in with a pre-app, and we started with we don't want to mess with Camden, have a bit of a reputation.
Yeah.
So we basically went in for a carbon copy of those 2 buildings, and we said, at least it's in keeping with the street scene. You can't argue with that.
Yeah.
Just two kind of townhouse styles with, I think there were four flats in each, I think. And we had a basement.
Yeah.
And this was all 3 years ago, so forgive me. And then over time it developed. They said, we'd like something more modern. We said, are you sure? They were like, yes. So we put in something more modern, and they said, too modern. Can you make it more traditional? So we went back and made it more traditional. And then eventually they said, we like this building. They pointed to one in Kensington and Chelsea. It was a very smart building. And we were like, oh, wow. Sure, okay, we'll give you that building. So we gave them that building and put a bit of our own spin on it, but really it's a kind of pretty traditional West Hampstead, late Victorian mansion block style.
Yeah, it looks great.
Say.
I've seen the CGIs, they look great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And just while we're on this subject, so this is Narcissus Road.
Yeah.
And this is Echo House. And if you know, you know. It's a Greek story. And we're reuniting the lovers after several thousand years. Every development's got to have a story, right?
Yeah.
And our story is sweat and blood and toil and 2 Greek lovers, give or take.
What's the schedule of accommodation on?
What did we get in the end? We scrapped the basement because building costs were just going through the roof at the time, and we didn't know where we'd be by this point. Ended up with 7 units, 3 1-beds, 3 2-beds, and a 2-bed kind of lateral penthouse on the top floor.
You've decided to go down the route of design and build, to use design and build contracts on this. Can you tell us why?
We did design the building to a traditional REBA Stage 4 standard.
Right.
Then we went and did a design and build contract we were advised, and we saw the logic of it, that we were basically just sort of de-risking both sides. We were de-risking the design by spending a load of money on it and getting it right and making sure that we could hand across something that we were proud of.
Yeah.
And then we were hopefully de-risking the delivery and the sort of the final design by giving it to a design and build contractor. Someone called John Foster at Trident, who we were introduced to by the Developers Club. He came on board and did a lot of work for the first 5 months of our working relationship for free as a sort of a fly on the wall in our design team meetings.
Yeah.
And it was a preferred contractor. By the time we got to the end, we didn't need to go to a
tender process.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Because we liked John and we wanted to work with him. So that's kind of how we ended up in design and build. And he cares a lot about the finished product, as far as I can tell.
With the traditional route, you'd have maybe an architect on board through maybe the construction process. You'd have your drawings detailed to higher than Stage 4. With the design and build route, you've had to do that with the contractor, right?
And we've novated the architect across to him.
Okay.
And the structural engineer. We've retained the M&E guy on our side. From my limited experience, my naivety in the industry and so on, I think design and build is not the panacea that people think it is.
Yeah.
I think there's always going to be ways for someone to either skimp on design or skimp on costs.
Right.
And so I think we've tried to just kind of assemble a team and instill in that team the sense that we're trying to do something really special that we can all be proud of.
Yeah.
And that acts as our kind of announcement development.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's the logic.
You've got planning for 7 units here. What's the GDV on the site?
How long is a piece of string? I don't know, 4.5.
You should be able to gauge that, right? Because you're pushing the spec on this site, so it's in a very nice location.
You say I should be able to gauge that, and yeah, if someone put a gun to my head and say guess, I'd say 4.65.
Right.
But I don't know where interest rates will be by the end of this year. I don't know whether we'll be in a recession, and as a consequence, I think we could.
But your conservative estimate should be
conservative
around
estimate 4.5.
Yeah, 4.5
all day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. And how did you fund this site?
Through a combination of mostly with family money, and then we're financing these buildings now that we've modernised them. We're taking out long-term debt against them and using that as development finance here. Okay. We may also have a little bit of dev mezz finance on this, depending on what happens with the opportunities that we're currently in legals
looking
with.
at. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So you've got more in the pipeline now.
Yep.
Yeah.
God help us.
Okay.
We're riding the tiger.
You're in it now.
Yeah.
So what else have you got going on?
We've invested. So on the kind of the PE side, we've invested in about 7 companies now, and in 3 of them we're kind of lead investors. So we own more than 20% of the company, and we're very active. We've launched a company of our own called Commerce Road on that side of the business. Commerce Road is a sort of, I'm not allowed to say one-stop shop, but it's a one-stop shop for e-commerce retailers who want to check their credit score. That's a freebie, and then later on they can get several hundred lenders offer them terms against their business for unsecured finance. So that's exciting. We had a first paying customer as of yesterday or the day before. Yeah,
okay, that's
which
good.
We raised a glass of wine to because it's nice to have some revenue.
Yeah,
and then we're in legals on something that's kind of GDV of about, I don't know, 4.5 in Kentish Town at the moment. Okay. We've got offers out on probably about 10 million of other stuff, but who knows, offers or whatever.
Yeah. You win some, you lose some.
Yeah, mostly you lose them. So yeah, we're kind of. I think it's a difficult time in the industry. I think we all know that. There's still a gap between vendors' expectations and reality.
Yeah.
I think the fundamentals, the long-term fundamentals for Britain are brilliant. I think this is one of the greatest countries on earth, and I think there's a lot going for us. And with a little bit of sane, stable leadership, I think we could do very well. But the short-term fundamentals, next 3 or 4 years, are looking pretty gross.
Yeah.
So
just on the vendors' expectations, we are now seeing lots of sites coming back onto the market purely because of the vendors' expectations are just too high.
Yeah.
And offers are falling through, and these sites are coming back in our inbox. Are you finding that?
In the immortal words of Shiro Raunier, Jack Jiggins, Shaunak Raunier, all of them, just follow up. Because that's how most of the best deals I hear about seem to be done when a vendor gets exhausted and they just say, do you know what, screw it, you can have it.
Yeah.
To the fourth purchaser that has
That's
been
where the
hanging in there since
opportunities
the
are,
beginning.
right? Because we know like planning is only lasts for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, if it's been on the market for a while and the planning's about to lapse in 6 months, you know, the vendor's starting to worry a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you can really find those opportunities, right?
I think follow-up
Yeah.
is the most underrated skill in the world. I was talking to a founder the other day, and he was talking about some brilliant hire he'd brought in, and he was saying, he used this expression that really stuck with me. He said, brilliant chat, zero execution. And I think saying, I like this property, I'm going to make an offer that makes sense to me today, and then I'm going to follow up every 10 days for the next 6 months. I just think it's a superpower.
Yeah.
So I'd commend that to anyone watching who's wondering how to find a deal.
What's the timescales on this one? Like, when do you expect practical completion to be?
December 25th.
December
25th, 25. That's what I'm going to go for. Christmas Day this year.
1 year?
Yeah.
Okay. When did you actually start?
Well, we started sort of late November last year. Yeah. 1 year program.
Okay, that's quite quick.
Inshallah.
That's quite quick. Okay, that's 7 flats. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, come back here on Christmas Day, and we'll have it out.
We'll film another episode when it's all done. Yeah.
Follow, Grand Designs when it's, oh look, here he comes. He looks much thinner and more tired than he was at the beginning.
Yeah. We're going to wrap this up now, but for any viewers just starting out in the world of property development, what's one piece of advice you could give them?
I'll share some words of advice from a mentor of mine. And he said, and he's big in the property game, and he said, it's your network. You can't do anything without a wonderful network because we deal with complicated stuff. He said, no surprises, do your analysis over and over again. Go over your numbers, go over your legals, go over your checklists, and be really diligent about that. And then the third one, I'm not sort of F it, he would say, sooner or later you've got to make a decision on instincts, but you do that with the right network and the right analysis behind that instinct. So
on the network point, how exactly is that helpful? Do you mean in the sense of like, you know, you can literally pick up the phone to someone and ask them about an issue that you've come across in property development? Yeah,
it's one, you can get answers to questions. Two, you find out what the questions are. Because when you're talking to people about it, they'll say, "Oh, this has happened to me," and you say, "God, I didn't even know that was a risk. Let me put that on my risk register."
Yeah.
I think it's like all business, it's scary and it's stressful, and having a network of like people that are in the same boat as you is potent. Yeah. And it's become such a specialised industry.
Yeah.
That you really do need people with deep subject matter expertise in multiple disciplines. You cannot do everything yourself. It's not like running a retail e-commerce store. You need an architect and a structural engineer and a fire
engineer. You need a good
engineer
team around you.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Well, look, thanks Ed. Thanks for letting us film here.
My pleasure.
As I mentioned, we've got a site that's about to start just around the corner. So I'll be popping across to see how you guys are getting on as well.
I'd like to come down and see that.
And it'd be good to film here. You know, when you've progressed a little bit more, do another video. So we have to wrap it up because the guys need to get back to work on site. So thank you. Yeah, that was really interesting. So Ed's quite a character. It was nice to meet him in person, and what they're doing on site is quite cool as well. I can't wait to see that development go up, but also, you know, quite interesting how they've phased that development. The first phase being working on the existing buildings, refurbishing them and adding extra uplift on them, while also working in tandem with the rear portion of the site, which is a planning application for a new build element. They're using the completed existing block to kind of part finance the new build element. So that's quite interesting. Yeah, so property developing is all about strategies and finding that angle. And they managed to do it in a really smart way. Guys, that's the end of this week's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you at the next one.